Mr.Lee-Chin is one of the few black billionaires in the world right now. He has a net worth of $3.08 billion and it's growing. He is the chairman of the National Commercial Bank of Jamaica, the CEO of Portland Holdings. He is an investor, a philanthropist, a business magnate, and he's Jamaican.
To jam rock!
Here are 5 ways in which Mr.Lee-Chin used to become a successful and wealthy person.
The first day in high school, I was 11. And we were in an auditorium, a little bit smaller than this. And we were being addressed by the equivalent of the governor of the state in Jamaica, the custos of the parish. His name was Mr. Grosset. And Mr. Grosset, so we were all standing at attention, me in my short khaki pants. And Mr. Grosset said, "Ladies, boys and girls, opportunity knocks but once." Something, wow. What if when my one opportunity comes knocking, I'm sleeping? Or I'm gazing out the window, or I'm playing marbles, we didn't have TV then. Then my life is over. So for the next 12 years, I didn't sleep, I didn't gaze, nor did I play marbles. I'm looking for my one opportunity. Until this friend of mine said, "Mike, why do you look so sleep deprived?" I said, "Well, I'm looking for my one opportunity." Every day, there are opportunities. But unfortunately for most people, opportunities are usually clad in crises. And when there's a crisis, how do you feel? I feel awful. Because you're focusing on the first component of the Chinese definition of the word crisis, which is crisis equals danger plus opportunity. So you can't have an opportunity unless there's a crisis. Interesting. So that was my lesson. That was a big lesson in life. So as of then, my perspective was totally different. Whenever there's a crisis and I look pallid and I feel awful, I ask myself the question, where are the opportunities?
Wow. I'm driven by a mantra that I coined, and it's the following: success begets complacency, begets failure. Success, the natural byproduct of success, is you become complacent. You say, "No, I'm successful, I can do anything. I can vary from the formula that made me successful in the first place. And if the formula is different, the result is going to be different." So success begets complacency, begets failure. So because I don't want to be a failure, I have to make sure that the attitude, the routines, the stresses I had, not knowing what was around the corner, I keep myself in that state.
How do you do it?
Because I'm conscious. I'm conscious of what I don't want to be. I don't want to be complacent.
We first understand the principles behind how wealth is created in the first place.
And what are those principles?
Well, there are 3 things we must have. The first is we must have a sound intellectual framework for making decisions. The second is we must have emotional control. And thirdly, we must have access. If we have 2 out of 3, we won't be successful.
Access to what?
Access to opportunities, access to financing, access to great people, access to entrepreneurs, etc., etc. If you're not conscious about what it is you're looking for, it's unlikely that you will hit it. Again, we have to recognize firstly that we need a framework. Most people. Secondly, we have to recognize that in addition to the framework, we need to control our emotions. That's difficult if you don't have a framework. And thirdly, we need to make sure we have access. So as a young person, if the young person is conscious that they need 1, 2, 3, and all, they can say, "No, what is the framework I'm using when I'm thinking about investing? How do I control my emotions?" Well, you control your emotions the time when you're at risk of behaving obtusely, or when times are really good, or when times are really bad.
So it's those extremes that we have to control our emotions. My quest was, is there a formula between every single wealthy person that I can distill into a few identifiable points? And that's the formula I'm going to make sure I practice and I also preach. Well, if you think about every wealthy person in the world, there are 5 common things that wealthy people do, all do. Number 1, every single one of them, they own a few high-quality businesses, not too many. Few high-quality businesses. Number 2, every single wealthy person in the world, they really understand those few businesses. Number 3, every single wealthy person in the world really have used other people's money to have created wealth. Number 4, every single wealthy person in the world has made sure that those few businesses that they own, they are domiciled in strong long-term growth industries. So it's a combination of owning a great business that you understand that's in a rising tide that will create wealth. And number 5, every single wealthy person in the world created his or her wealth by simply holding those few businesses for the long term. So those were the 5 distillates that I gleaned to that point. And I thought, this will be my cause. And I built a business around investing in that manner because I superimposed what everybody else was doing. In fact, we have an entire industry, the securities industry and the asset management industry, which is doing the exact opposite. Because a mutual fund typically owns 100, 200 different businesses. So I thought, this is crazy, because I don't know one individual in the world who owns 100 different businesses. So that doesn't make any sense. Secondly, so if you go through the list, wealthy people own a few, mutual funds own hundreds, diversification. Secondly, I thought, if you own, I don't know anyone who can understand more than a few businesses. But mutual funds own hundreds. So is it possible for that money manager to understand hundreds of businesses? And if you own hundreds, you're going to own some that are in good industries, poor industries, poor industries. Why would you rationally, logically go out and buy a business that is in a subpar industry? Why would you do that? But if you own 100, you will. Yeah. And fourthly, if you own 100 different businesses, for you to understand them, you have to know the acumen of the CFO, as an example, because the CFO is a very important person in the organization. And if you don't know who the CFOs are, you're speculating. And lastly, every single wealthy person owns their business for the long term. Mutual funds typically turn over their portfolios once a year. I don't know of one wealthy person who buys and sells his or her business every year. So I thought this industry, this product, is totally opposite to how wealth is created. And that's wrong. Therefore, I'm going to start a business that is dedicated to the principles, those 5 points. That's what I did.
Thanks for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Remember, to become your best self, do that by subscribing right now, because there are many more videos coming your way to help you to become your best self. So subscribe now to never miss out on any. Goodbye and see you in my next video.